In order to explain the relations between China and United States, we are going to mention some relevant facts that influence the actual Sino-American relations. Our story begins since 1838 with the Opium War. This war starts what is known as the Century of Humiliation for China that will extend until 1949. During this period, China had to face many treaties that forced them to protect foreign powers. In 1844, the relations of United States and China began under the Treaty of Guangzhou. The aim of the deal was to assure the trade rights to the United States and the Chinese land, but Chinese rights were not covered. The following treaty that China did was during 1858, which imposed China to open ports to United States, United Kingdom, Qing Russia, and the Second French Empire. Besides the unequal treaty, China had to suffer of exclusion during that period too. In the United States, the Chinese people was seen as poor class. In 1848, the California gold rush attracted many Chinese labor, and the American government started to restrict the Chinese immigration. The first act is known as the Chinese Exclusion Act, signed by the two countries in 1882, prohibiting the entrance of Chinese to the United States during 10 years. And the other two, the Bayer-Sang Treaty and the Greedy Act, were signed in 1888 and in 1892, excluding the Chinese during 20 and 10 years respectively. Although the treaties to exclude Chinese people lost effect in 1902, the Congress of the United States is still preventing the arrival of them. In the 80s and 90s, anti-foreign feelings were rising within China, and during 1895, Japan invades Taiwan. The dissatisfaction of the population with the foreign power caused the Boxer Rebellion, which was stopped by the United States, concluding with the fall of the Qing dynasty and the creation of the Republic of China. But in 1921, a group of leftists founded the Chinese Communist Party. The Republic of China and the Chinese Communist Party were claiming for the government of China, but causes the Chinese Civil War in 1827. Japan continued expanding within China. In response, Republic of China and Chinese Communist Party joined forces to send Japan off. Japan, in order to diminish the Chinese resistance, made the Nanjing Massacre. In 1937, the United States intervened in the conflict and sent military forces to protect China. As a reply, Japan bombed the Pearl Harbor, Hawaii in 1941, which made that the United States drop atomic bombs to Hiroshima and Nagasaki. With these actions, Taiwan came back to China, and the Republic of China took the island as a refugee from Chinese Communist Party, who gained the Civil War and then, in 1849, will become in the People's Republic of China. Republic of China, in order to protect themselves from People's Republic of China, allowed the United States enter to the island with their military forces. In response, People's Republic of China bombed Taiwan. That action caused that the United States treated them with nuclear bombs. Under that condition, People's Republic of China agreed to negotiate. That phenomenon is known as the Taiwan Strait Crisis.
Sino-Soviet border conflict. The relationship between China and the Soviet Union was deteriorating after the First and Second Taiwan Strait Crisis. Both leader differences in the terms of ideology contributed to the Sino-Soviet split, as well as differences over security and development. The Great Leap Forward that was China's radical industrialization policies led to the Soviet Union to withdraw advisors in 1960. These agreements culminate in a border encounter in March 1969. The Sino-Soviet splits contribute to Beijing's eventual rapprochement with the United States. In 1965, the rapprochement contributed to the decision of the U.S. Congress to pass the Immigration and Naturalization Act. This led to a dramatic increase of Chinese immigration. During the same period, U.S. started giving economic aid to Taiwan as it started growing. Ping pong diplomacy. The relations improved even more. As a sign of this, China's ping pong team invites members of the U.S. team to China on April 1971. Journalists accompanying the U.S. players are among the first Americans allowed to enter China since 1949. In July of 1971, Secretary of State Henry Kissinger made a secret trip to China. During the same period, President Nixon eased the trade embargo on China. In return, China relaxed its trade embargo on U.S. less than a week later. Nixon visits China. President Nixon spent 8 days in China in February 1972 after 25 years of separation between the two countries. During this week, Nixon met China's highest leaders. The communique says that countries agreed that it would be in everyone's best interest to move towards normalizing diplomatic relations. However, normalization of relations between the two countries make a slow progress for much of the decade. Formal ties and one China policy. As first sign of formal ties in May 1973, the United States liaison office was established in Beijing, and China's counterpart office was established in Washington.
2011 U.S. pivots to Asia. In 2011, the Secretary of State Hillary Clinton announced the U.S. pivot from the Middle East to Asia. This referred to investing U.S. attention on military, political, and economic affairs in the Asia-Pacific region. China has risen to become a powerful nation that commands the world's attention, and it is more important than ever before to establish regular dialogue. 2012 Rising trade tensions. The U.S. trade deficit with China rises from $273 billion in 2010 to $295 billion in 2011, and in March, the United States, the European Union, and Japan filed a request for consultations with China at the World Trade Organization over its restrictions on exporting rare earth metals. The United States and its allies affirmed that China's quota violates international trade norms, and it forces that the multinational firms that use the metals move to China. China calls this move rash and unfair, and it promises to defend its right in trade disputes. 2013 Sunnylands Summit at the state of Sunnylands in California. In June of 2013, the President of China, Xi Jinping, and the President Barack Obama met to converse about important topics like climate change, cybersecurity, and North Korea's aggressive policies that were incessantly dangerous to the interests of both countries. 2014 Joint Climate Announcement. In 2014, the President Barack Obama and the Chinese President Xi Jinping issued a joint statement on climate change, seeking to reduce carbon emissions growth by 2030. The two leaders also announced joint commitments to implement stronger standards for heavy-duty vehicles, stronger efficient standards for building, and to work together for clean energy development in developing countries. These both countries are two of the world's largest investors in clean energy and already have a robust program of energy technology cooperation.
Over the last few years, Chinese President Xi Jinping and former U.S. President Barack Obama managed to create momentum for bilateral ties to put up with the impact of 2008 international financial and U.S. domestic politics. The two countries managed to build and maintain new top majors country relations, which has brought tangible results for both sides. The question now is whether the new U.S. administration will join hands with the Chinese side and continue with a working relationship that benefits not only both countries, but also countries around the world. In the 21st century, according to the diplomat, China is perceived as the United States' greatest challenge to its superpower status. The recently elected U.S. President Donald Trump said in his best-selling campaign manifesto, "There are people who wish I wouldn't refer to China as our enemy, but that's exactly what they are."
Even years before his candidacy, Donald Trump has been showing his discontent with China. The US and China have been economic potencies that have led global trade over the last years, which has caused an economic war between these two countries. While China is an avid supporter of international free trade, the US has been forced to close customs house and implement protectionism due to the eagerness of its millions of consumers for the goods of China and other Asian countries. President Trump has already expressed some of his ideas about the US China relationship. As President-elect, Trump repeated his campaign accusation that China has manipulated its currency to take advantage of the United States. One of the proposals Trump made in his electoral campaigns was to increase taxes to Chinese imports. For instance, the rise of taxes of imported cars has created stress not only to Chinese automakers but to U.S. officials due to the deficit this could provoke over time. The U.S. president defended this measure, claiming that in China, less than 5% of the total cars are imported, while in the U.S., about 15%. Therefore, the U.S. government refuses to contribute to China in becoming the world's largest automaker. It's pretty obvious that both countries have had several confrontations, mainly because of the trading policies each country has established.
So, what are the key issues in the US-China trade dialogue? First, get the trade facts out to the public. Most Americans don't know that 80% of US trade is through global supply chains, and China is its biggest trading partner. Second, convene high-level leadership meetings. We need dialogue to address problems and solutions. Big strategic dialogue allows leaders to get to know each other and understand their different points of view. Third, take action to enforce established rules. U.S. argues that there are countries that have 50% tariffs on their products, while they only apply about 2%. Therefore, the WTO rules are being violated and no one is doing nothing. And last, increase skill training of workforce. It is necessary to develop better social programs to assist displaced workers.